Hi, in this video, we're going to look at solving one-step equations. I'm going to do this in two parts. The first part is going to be just looking at the addition and subtraction properties of equalities. The addition property of equality says that if I add the same number to each side of the equation, I get equivalent expressions. So if I look at this example, I have x minus 3 equals 2. Well, if I add 3 to both sides of the equation, then I'm going to produce an equivalent expression. So if I do it to one side of the equation, I have to also do it to the other. Okay, so what we do to one side of the equation, we must do to the other. Okay, and we separate our equation by the equal sign. Okay, the subtraction property of equality says it's very similar to addition, except that I'm subtracting. So if I subtract the same number from each side of the equation, it produces an equivalent equation, right? So in this example, it's x plus 3 equals 2. If I subtract 3 from both sides of the equation, then I'm preserving equality and thus will produce an equivalent equation. Okay, so how does that apply to solving equations? Well, let's take a look at that. So we want to find the solution to, okay, I got some cool options here. We won't do some of those right now. We might play with those in a little bit though. So what is the solution of x plus 13 equals 27? So the first thing I want to do is I need to remember that I need to isolate x. I want to get x by itself. Okay, so I'm going to start by writing this equation. X plus 13 equals 27, right? And so I want to isolate x. Well, 13 is being added to x. If I think about this visually, if I take a strip and I cut it into pieces, and I have one side that's x and one side that's 13, and I know together that total length is 27, right? So that kind of visually helps me see what I'm looking at. So I want to know what other additional piece I need to add to make that equal 27. Okay. And so I'm using addition. So these are added. So I want to do the opposite. So I want to subtract, right? So often you'll see teachers write them underneath, but for today, I'm going to write it besides. I have x plus 13, I'm going to skip a little space over, equals 27. And I want to get rid of that. I want to zero out that 13. I'm going to use that additive inverse that we looked at earlier this week. I'm going to subtract 13. Okay. So as long as I subtract it to both sides, I'm preserving equality. Right? And then I'm going to simplify that. So because these are additive inverses, I know those are going to be 0, so I have just x left, equals. Well, what's 27 minus 13? Well, 7 minus 3 is 4, and 2 minus 1 is 1, so x equals 14. And I can check that by plugging it in. So 14 plus 13, that does equal 27. Okay. Let's look at another example. That one looks like it might be a little hard to see. It says x, whoops, sorry, not x. It says negative 7 equals b minus 3. So just in case it's a little hard to see on your screen. All right, so we're isolating the variable. So I want to isolate b, okay? So in order to do that, I need to zero out that negative 3. So I'm going to add 3 to both. So it's being subtracted. I want to add it so that these two pieces are additive inverses. Okay. So -7 plus 3. Well, if I owe somebody $7 and I give them 3, then I'm still going to owe them 4. Okay. The 3's are zeroing out until I get b equals 4. I can check that. -7, does that equal... Nope, that should be negative. -4 minus 3. Well, if I'm already -4 and I take away 3 more, then yes, I'm going to be -7. Okay. Okay, so those are the addition and subtraction properties. So if you are adding, you're going to subtract. If you are subtracting, then you're going to add to undo those things. So we're using inverse operations. Okay. The bottom of this sheet has some practice problems, and so these will be available. You can actually have a clean copy of this in Canvas, and so you can hopefully you followed along in writing, and so then you have some problems there at the bottom that you can do. Okay. If you have any questions, please feel free to shoot me a message, use the discussion board. You can access me through Canvas, you can access through Remind, you can also email. Those are ways that you can get a hold of me. And so please email me